start with the truth and then go backwards. It's funny when you think of the Treasury Department when it trains Treasury agents and people who work with currency to detect counterfeits. They don't spend their time looking at counterfeits. They spend all their time looking at, feeling at, smelling, getting very, very familiar with the real thing. So the more we're familiar with authenticity, with things that are of real value, the truth in this case, the more we'll discern counterfeits. I think the best thing you can do is give kids a sense that there's a truth, that there's truth, eternal, transcendent, real truth, true truth, and that it's discernible.
Oh, so it's not your truth and my truth and his truth?
Well, that's the subjectivism that postmodernity wants to impose. Like, if it seems true to you, then that's your truth. But I think we have to help kids transcend that too and say there's some things that are eternal verities. Where would you go? Where's the truth source for discerning that kind of thing?
Where's the truth source?
I think you have to look at the history of Revelation. You have to look at the literature that's come down to us as sacred literature and say, what holds up? What holds up against the test of time and use and abuse? What sacred literature has the best track record? And what sacred literature improves individuals and communities and societies and make them sustainable with a goodness and compassion and kindness and wholeness? And I think it comes down pretty clearly that there's one book that has been formative in shaping all the great and good and wise and truthful things that have benefited Western civilization.
Yeah. Now, I think I know what that source is. I think it's called the Bible, right?
Yeah. Well, the Bible's a convenient way to refer to it. That's what it's come down to. But think of it. The Bible's 66 individual pieces of literature between one cover with about 48 different authors over 15 centuries. Now, that's a pretty interesting collection of literature in its own right.
With incredible continuity to that entire book.
An amazing track record.
It really is. Well, I'll tell you, I've always said that all ideas and principles that really work in life are based in Scripture, whether it has to do with your life, what you do at work, at home, at play, at church, and everything you do. Those are the principles that we can really rely upon.
Scripture's a pretty cool mirror, and it kind of shows us where we are versus where we think we are and where we could be. It's a Scripture, you could almost say that the Bible's a magic mirror. Because it's got transcendent authority. It applies to lives that have been lived well and wisely as well as foolishly. But it gives us some redemptive path back to square one, back to a place where we can find hope and healing, restoration. That's the beauty of the Bible. The Bible is, they used to call it the good book. They still do. Because it's got so much there. It's a mine. It's a well. It's just being left there to explore. And it's tragic that today so many people are biblically illiterate.
So it sounds like I hear you saying that really what we need to do is instead of having a void there that's filled with all these messages from the media, the advertising industry, is to really fill it with truth so that those other things won't ultimately invade our minds.
Yeah, if you look at a percentage breakdown of how kids spend their time during the course of a week during the school year, you're going to find that most of their time, like 30, 35 hours a week or more, are spent in education and extracurricular activities that buffer education, surround education. There's so many sports and after-school programs that essentially kids are being subjected to institutional influence more than family influence. So when you do have your kids, and mom and dad are frequently busy and distracted and working overtime to come up with enough money to give their kids the lifestyle and the benefits that they've come to expect, you want to give your kids a good life. But sometimes we're not giving them the best things. In spite of thinking that we're giving them advantages that we may or may not have had, we're not giving them the things that are really the richest and most precious.
Well, Gordon, thanks for being with me.
It's
good to see you.
It's always a pleasure.